Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 254, Lysis 222e to 223a. Socrates has finished the confusing conversation, but he tries one last time to confuse the boys by acting like one of the sides in a court case. It's not clear whether he's for the prosecution or the defense. I think by the negative conclusions he comes to, he must be for the defense. There is no way you could possibly charge anyone without any evidence. He's going to reel off all of the things that friendship is not. These are the conclusions that they came to throughout the conversation. So apart from confusing the boys, he's also trying to encourage them one last time to remember what they had talked about in the conversation. He is emphasizing that he is doing all the work, they are doing none of the work, but it's quite likely that the boys don't pick up on any of this criticism. They just hear that Socrates is now going to summarize at long last what has been talked about in the conversation, and he's basically showing that he is a troublemaker. The boys didn't have any trouble with the notion of friendship until today. It's quite likely that they won't think about the concept of friendship again after today. Anyway, here is Socrates' summation of the conversation. Egar metehoi philumenoi, metehoi philuntes, metehoi homoioi, metehoi anomoioi, metehoi agathoi, metehoi oikeioi, meteta alla hossadiele luthemen, ugar egoge etimemne mai hupotu plethus, al me dentuton philon estin, ego menuketi echo tilego. If neither the ones loved, nor the ones loving, nor the similar, nor the dissimilar, nor the good, nor the proper, nor the other things that we went through, for I, at any rate, don't remember from the great amount. But if none of these is friendship, I can no longer say what is. Some people might object that philon does not mean friendship, but philon here is the predicate, and the predicate doesn't receive the definite article. Therefore, what we have here may indeed be philon, but it may also be to philon without the to, without the definite article, because it is a predicate. Socrates, after all, is arguably talking about friendship and not about something friendly. And in philosophical discussions, even where there is an abstract noun, such as philia, friendship, the philosopher would prefer to use the adjective in the neuter singular with the definite article. So it's like saying the friendly, something like that. Just as to agathon, the good, means goodness, and to kalon, the beautiful or the fine, means beauty. The advantage of the adjective in the neuter singular and with the definite article is that it covers every manifestation of the concept, while the abstract noun normally has limits. In the case of the fine, for example, to kallos, which means beauty, this is the conventional term for beauty, that term is confined to the aesthetic and not to the moral, while to kalon, the fine, covers all instances of kala, fine things, both aesthetic and moral. To philon is evidently wider than philia. As we have seen, even a wine glass can be philon. Socrates begins with a list of possibilities in the masculine plural, the ones who are loved, the ones who love, the similar, the dissimilar, the good, the proper. But then he adds any of the other things that we have gone through. And after the explanation that there have been so many things, he carries on, if none of these is philon, and the word for none is in the neuter singular, which means that the boys can think that he is saying if none of these is itself a friendly thing, while Socrates should be saying if none of these examples is friendship. Just to recap what the examples give us, the people being loved and the people loving are the active and passive aspects of friendship. The similar and the dissimilar in a friendly relationship refer to the utilitarian aspect of friendship, while the good is also apparently in this context utilitarian, because the good in these discussions have been the ones who can provide some benefit and the ones who don't need any benefit from others. The proper was the example of the luster who naturally belongs to the one lusted. This is like an arm naturally belongs to a body. But having said that the one lusted should therefore love the luster, which is what Hippothales heard, and I presume he hasn't heard anything since then, Socrates then reduced the proper to being either similar or dissimilar to the thing of which it is a proper thing. To take my example rather than Socrates' example, the proper is the arm, it is proper to the body, and either the arm is similar to the body or dissimilar to the body. Either way, they've already refuted the notion that friendship has anything to do with the similar or the dissimilar. As I've said repeatedly throughout the examination of this dialogue, the arguments are terrible, they are not convincing, and they are probably not intended to be convincing, but they are intended to be confusing. But even here, Socrates has failed because the boys don't think. Only if the boys started thinking and remembering and contrasting and comparing, then they would be confused. This is his last attempt to confuse them by listing everything together, making it sound as though we have absolutely no idea what friendship could be. The fact that the boys aren't up in arms at this point means either they do know what friendship is, in other words, they think that they know, or they simply enjoy the spectacle of Socrates being a sophist, and especially Menexenus would admire Socrates' skill in playing with words. We've come to the end of the conversation with the boys, but there's still a little bit more of the dialogue. And presumably, if Plato has bothered to write this end to the dialogue, it has its place in understanding the dialogue as a whole. Without this, we are not going to understand the whole dialogue. This is slightly not the way people normally read the ends of dialogues like this. They would say this is simply dramatic embellishment to give the conversation a nice dramatic ending. We've left the actual philosophy and are now back to the setting of the conversation. As we've already seen, the conversation itself is hardly philosophical, at least the content of the conversation is hardly philosophical. The motivation of Socrates may be philosophical. If we read the first sentence of what's left, I think we will be able to see that it is the case that Socrates intends to make people think. Above all, it's not what he says, but why he says it that matters. Tautedepon en no echon alone de tinaton presbyteron kinen. Having said these things, I had in mind to move now some other one of the older ones. The younger ones in this scenario are Lysis and Menexenus. Sitting on the same bench with them are Ctesippus and Socrates, who are both older, obviously, and standing around are the other older boys who have come to look at the younger boys. The younger boys in the palaestra are not interested in this conversation, they are elsewhere. The older boys are also not really interested in the conversation, they're interested in the boys, Lysis and Menexenus. I say that given that the context for this dialogue is Socrates talking to someone we don't know, but who obviously enjoys all of the talk about lusting after boys, and Socrates portraying this conversation as helping Hippothales ensnare Lysis. Who of the older people here would Socrates want to talk to in particular after this conversation? That's probably not a fruitful question to ask. Socrates clearly doesn't intend to talk to anybody else, and in fact they won't be able to talk because the conversation is about to be broken up. But we have to remember that Socrates is the narrator. He could have done anything he wanted. He could have lied, as he does in Politeia, Republic, where he makes up a conversation which lasts much longer than the time allocated to it in the dialogue.